Welcome back to the wonderful world of Anbennar and Bianfang, or should I say, Dahui, who we have become. Last time we've really just pummeled the command. They're very much reduced, and we'll be able to full annex them in our next war. We're going to need to wait a few years though, until 1553, so 12 years we can finish them off. Outside of that, we're going to look inward a little bit. We need to do quite a few things to progress down our mission tree. We need to get that army professionalism up and the army tradition up. We also need to do a bit of deving. We need to allow manpower replenish. We need to build a fleet and build quite a few buildings. So we're going to be doing all that. We're also going to start integrating some of the vassals we got from the command, except for the harpies here because they still have cores on quite a bit of territory. It's tempting to kind of want to attack Mo Huang, but they are allied with the Raj, and the Raj is doing quite well in this run. It doesn't look like they're going to collapse. I think, yeah, Zoka beat the Jadar, so he's not going to be a problem. He's actually been vassalized by the Raj, so the Raj is spreading quite far afield. We can see here, quite a large Raj. They're probably going to be our main rival going forward. But yes, we would like to defeat Mo Huang. We are going to need to start marching south now that we've pacified the north, as it were, and their alliance with the Raj is going to be a bit of a problem. We could almost definitely beat them, but purely based on numbers we'd be on the back burner in a conflict, and I kind of, as I mentioned, since we just had a lot of revolts, I want to let our manpower replenish. I want to do a bit of deving and building up in preparation for this southern campaign, so that's likely what we're going to be doing. We did release this little nation from the command last time, and I think we're gonna vassalize them. It should be pretty easy. Oh, there we go, we're done. We can now start the economic boom, which increases our tax modifiers and good production modifier for 20 years, which is pretty helpful. We can also immediately complete this ramping up recruitment mission, which requires us to have a larger army than the command, and the bird riders. Bird riders aren't doing very well in this run. Danggun has been doing the much better. But either way, we'll complete the mission, which gives us permanent cores on a lot of this land in the north, as well as some minor claims on land I think we've already taken. Unfortunately, to continue down the side of the tree that deals with the command, we do need to complete the perfect army, which is going to be a bit of a roadblock. We could potentially go north now and start conquering the bird riders, so that's on the cards. We're just going to let our manpower replenish for a little bit now. We're going to need to build a flagship for our mission. I think we'll call it the White Dragon. Feels like an appropriate name. We're probably not going to get much use out of it because we're not exactly a naval nation. Always nice to have one though. In order to complete this next mission though, we do need to max our navy size. So we're going to be doing that. It will likely just end up acting as a trading navy because, as I mentioned, we're not exactly a naval nation. There's the money from our monopolies coming in. How close are we to max mercantilism? Not too far off, 15. I tend to start revoking monopolies once we hit that 100% mercantilism, but since we've got so much money from that, we're going to build a bunch of farming estates that we need to begin our Yanification policies. We've got access to another tyrant action. I think for the first time we're not going to purge the officer corps, because we're doing quite good on army professionalism. We're at 85. We're not too far off that 90% we need to finish the perfect army. Army tradition is going to start becoming a bit of a problem now at this point, so instead we're going to do established military pensions. This will reduce our tax income by 10% for 5 years, but also give us a yearly army tradition of 1, which will lead to some positive army tradition growth, which is really just what we need. We need army tradition to stay in the positive long enough for us to complete that mission. It looks like someone just shattered the command. I think the command is gone now. Yeah, I'm not seeing them. They're gone. So what happened to the Jade March? Oh, they've become a vassal of one of the nations that was released from the command. That's okay, I guess. That means if we conquer them, we'll of course gain the Jade March as a vassal, which is really what we're looking for. We're going to need them for later affairs. It's always nice to have them as well. I think we'll immediately start rushing a spy network on these guys. It'd be really unfortunate if the Jade March revolted before we could vassalize them, because if that happened we'd then have to annex them ourselves, which isn't really what we're hoping for. We could hypothetically no CB these guys just to prevent the Jade March from coming independent. It would only cost us 1 stability. Maybe we should do it, just to remove any potential risk of the Jade March becoming independent. There's also this other nation here. We do have a claim on them that we fabricated against the command. We don't really want to risk them attacking and potentially forcing these guys to release the Jade March. There's also these guys up here that become independent. We're going to conquer all of them, I think. I have a few claims, and they'll be very fast wars. But yeah, I think we're going to no CB just to remove any potential risk. It shouldn't be a big deal, right? Wouldn't even roll out of bed for 23 aggressive expansion. We'll also clean up the other smaller states while we're here as well. We finished our Jade Sea fleet. This will give us permanent claims on these southern lands, and we can begin on our southern expansion. We are going to have to invade the Jade March though to rack up the war score needed to win the war, but it shouldn't be a huge deal. In fact, this might be an opportunity for us to gain that army tradition we need. We're still a bit behind on army professionalism though, only by a single point though. We could just create a general if we needed to. There's some other things we need to do. We need to build 10 or so barracks, but that shouldn't be too hard. We could prioritize sieging forts because that tends to give some army tradition. At the very least, we're not losing army tradition at the moment. It's currently positive. So as long as we can rack up the numbers just a little bit, we'll be able to complete that mission with no problems. And there we go. We've managed to cross to 70 army tradition. We just need those barracks now. I wish I'd built them earlier. I actually think we're going to take out a cheeky loan just to build them. I usually don't like taking loans, but I don't really want to risk a random event or something firing that will reduce our army tradition. Of course, it could still happen. If it does, it will be an annoyance, but what can you do? We've defeated the Jade March. I would have kept sieging them down, but they've actually just full surrendered. I was just going to keep sieging down their forts for us to gain army tradition, but it is what it is. We'll annex their overlord, and that should give us full control of the Jade March as a vassal. And there we go. The Jade March is now a vassal. They, of course, really don't like us, mainly due to how developed they are, but we should be able to smooth things out by increasing relations with them. I'm sure they'll quickly come to see our way of things. I mean, we're essentially the human command, so maybe they'll just see us as a continuation of their previous master. Hopefully our army tradition doesn't dip down back into the 60s before those barracks get built. If it does happen, it's not the end of the world. We'll just need to go fight another war. And there we go, we've done it. The perfect army has been created. We're going to lose mill, going to lose manpower, going to lose army tradition, but in return we'll gain the dragon army of Yan Shen, which decreases army tradition decay by 1, increases army drill gain by 100%, and reduces drill loss by 20%. This allows us to rather rapidly just rush down our mission tree and get perma-claims on pretty much this whole area. Problem is, in order to complete the final mission, we'll need to fully conquer this region, which means, of course, fighting the Big Raj. Maybe it's time, though. I mean, we're going to have to fight them anyway. But maybe it's time we fight them, defeat them, fully take control of the area. Purely based on numbers, we have about double their army size. The thing is, they're going to bring in vassals, though. We have quite a few of them. Oh, is there anyone really of note who's going to help? Not really. Mo Huang is their main helping ally. The vassals themselves don't look particularly strong. I think we'll do it. Let's start maintaining our army. We'll bring everyone over. I suppose we'll split our army into two. One will crush Mo Hong. We'd really like to end their alliance with the Raj. The other will focus on fighting the Raj and its vassals. We'll of course call in our ally, the slave nations of the south. Just wait for everyone to get into position. We'll also likely declare war on these guys at the same time and just take their land too. But let's deal with the Raj first of all. They're the main threat. Which of these locations is the most expensive? Just declare war for this one. Then our ally. Because a lot of these nations are vassals of the Raj, we can't separate piece them, but we'll see what we can do. We just need to take these 4 locations for us to progress down our mission tree. It's not like we need to go crazy. Hypothetically, we could use the war to force Mo Hong to return the land that our vassal has cores on. Ooh, have we lost our cores? Oh, it looks like we've lost most of the cores. That's too bad. It looks like I was took too long. They still have a core on the location that their Harpy majority is in. But that's too bad. I guess we'll take that single province then. But clearly a mistake on my part. I always forget that of course cores can expire. We need to be a little more aggressive to ensure that we retake the cores in time. But oh well. It's not the end of the world. We'll take that land at some point anyway. Looks like the Raj is focusing its attacks on our ally. That's pretty good. Means we can essentially just slip in and fight them on allied territory, on allied forts. Should allow us to do considerable damage due to the quality of our armies, far outmatching those of our enemies. Looks like the Raj's main armies up here though, around nearly 100,000 men altogether in this northern area. We bring our own 100,000 men. Who will win, do we think? Looks like the Raj is making a run for it. That's too bad. I was hoping they would try and fight us. I guess we can just clean up their vassals and allies that have stayed in the area though. In the east, we're just going to focus on sieging down Mo Huang. Since Mo Huang and the Raj are kind of ignoring this territory, we should be able to just siege lots of it down and maybe force Mo Huang out of the war. Looks like Mo Huang's had enough. We can get them to end their alliance with the Raj, give us that one location, take a bit of money, get them out of the war. Now it should just be just the Raj, their few remaining allies, and their vassals. Just the simple matter of trying to chase down their armies who keep running away from us and hiding in their allied and vassal land. But if we can actually catch them, we should be able to deal with them pretty easily. The armies of Dahui will not be denied. Aha, we've managed to catch, or maybe it should be more accurate to say we've been caught by a large Raj army, 80,000 men. We should be able to defeat them though, especially with reinforcements coming in for us. Oh, they ran before the fight even really started. I expected better from the sons of Harama. They're a little too cowardly for my tastes. I guess let's head for their capital, start sieging it. That might be enough for them to consider the war over. Yep, looks like the Raj has had enough. Just us going and sieging their capital and the territory around has been enough for them to peace out. We're just going to take the 4 locations we talked about. No reason for us to go too crazy. There'll be time for a big war with the Raj later. For now, we'll just take a small conflict. Then we're going to immediately, even though the war has just ended, we're going to declare war on these guys. Kadispar, and finish them off, which should give us complete control, or at least complete control of the command part of Shamakad, which will allow us to decide the fate of the hobgoblins and orcs. This should be a very uneventful war. They do have these guys involved, but, you know, they can't really oppose us. Actually, it looks like they broke their alliance. It said they were going to join the war, but it looks like they decided to break their alliance and peace out, or not even join in the first place. Oh well, I guess. If they know what's up, that's their thing. Good to see them knowing what's up though, and not causing trouble for us. And their Kadispar fully occupied. Unfortunately, they were allied with the Cave Haramari up here, so we'll need to fight them before they're willing to make peace. I guess we'll send one of our armies into the mines to deal with them. The rest can just hang around outside. We are down on manpower now. We lost quite a lot of it in the war with the Raj, mainly from sieging. Of course, we had to siege down quite a few locations. But manpower replenishes quite quickly here in Dahui. We'll just need to let it replenish before we start any major conflicts. And there we go. That's our win. Kadispar disappears from the map. We can now decide the fate of the orcs and hobgoblins. The final command, marching in lockstep, fording the rivers and crossing the deserts of the ruined kingdom without rest, obeying the unbreakable chain of command. The soldiers of Dahui grow even more indistinguishable from their hobgoblin foes, both enemy and example. We have learned much from them and they from us. Indeed, some hobgoblins have even taken to calling themselves the Dragon Command, in our honour. It is clear that there is room for only one of us in Halas. Our storm cloud will drive them back to the caves and foothills from which they emerged, never to return. Caution and counsel to he who fights demons. Take care not to become one, for in their eyes gleams the abyss whose gaze will meet your own. The chains of the command lie shattered at our feet, and the people of northern Rahen walk unshackled for the first time in generations. Some may whisper, that they have traded one set of tyrants for another, but most greet us as liberators. For we have done what no Raja could accomplish. We have vanquished the hobgoblin armies, their leaders fleeing back into the hills and caves from which they emerged to wreak havoc so many years ago. Their citizens at our mercy. They have left their mark on the land, settling areas which humans had fled, building their own towns and cities, spreading their language and customs. Even the most militaristic Dahwe patriot would admit that years of fighting the hobgoblins have left their mark on us too. We could not have bested them had we not studied their ways and learned from each defeat they handed us. The hobgoblin people, though some still refuse to call them that, kneel before us. We could extend our hand to our vanquished foe, lift them up, and have them fill our vacant ranks. Boar, lion, and wolf will become dragon, and Dragon Emperor Jinju III will become their Grand Marshal. We could also show them the same mercy that they showed to so many of our soldiers, a clean death with a sharp blade. So this is another one of those benevolent choices. The benevolent action is to drive them out of Hellas once and for all, which pretty much encourages us to purge or expel them, making it so they can never fully integrate into Dahwe. Or we can choose to integrate them. The conquered shall serve the white dragon. Hobgoblins will become very tolerated and will create the dragon hobgoblin culture, and I believe that's what we're going to do. We are a tyrannical Dahwe after all, and that means we tolerate people that other people maybe don't consider as people. Let the hobgoblins join with the other peoples and become a part of our glorious nation. Now in 30 days we'll have another event about the orcs, where we'll get to similarly decide their place within our nation. We also gained this unique mercenary company for tolerating the hobgoblins, the White Dragon Command, which is a pretty good mercenary company overall, with an extra 10 discipline, and of course they don't cost army professionalism to hire, which is always excellent to see from a mercenary company, especially for us, because army professionalism is of course very important to us. And now we can decide the fate of the brown orcs. When the hobgoblins came pouring out of the jade mines, they did not come alone. Their vanguard was a tide of giant unarmoured brutes, bearing no more than crude spears and axes. These brown orcs, tusked, frenzied and furious, brought to mind feral hogs, and indeed it took half a dozen men to take one down with halberds and crossbow bolts. We learned from captured command lieutenants after hours and days on the rack that hobgoblins had enslaved the orcs generations ago, and brought them from the serpent's spine to serve as disposable shock troops and heavy labourers. Although they had tried to break free more than once, the chains and whips of the command had always brought the brown orcs to heel. The command now lies shattered before us, and we must decide their fate. Our scholar bureaucrats suggest that, slave or not, they bear responsibility for ravaging Hellas as much as the hobgoblins. Ministers in the Office of Integration note that while brown orcs have intermixed with local Rahini, and over the generations a new caste of half-orcs has developed, to truly integrate them into Dahwe would require breaking their clan structure, forcibly resettling them into different areas and mandating intermarriages with pure-blooded Yan to rapidly temper their savage nature. Our marshals have pushed back, noting that their strength in numbers would be invaluable in rebuilding Rahen, and with enough drilling and discipline, these fearsome warriors would add a savage edge to our armies. Funnily enough here, the purging option is actually the ruthless one, for some reason. I guess because the popular opinion is that orcs maybe don't deserve to be genocided like everybody else. So we'll be taking the benevolent option, and we'll work to integrate the orcs into the Yan cultural sphere. Everyone is welcome in Dahwe, whether they want to be welcome or not. Now that our truce has expired with Mahong, I think it's time we go on the offensive against them. They haven't re-allied the Raj, so it's a perfect opportunity, and we have quite a lot of claims on their lands. So I think it's time that the glorious Dahwe turns its attention south. We could also go north, but the Dagunis are far weaker than the Mahong, and it's also not required for us to get down the mission tree, whereas conquering Mahong is kind of required for us to get down. With that in mind, we can turn our attention to the north whenever we please. So I feel like it's better to get the south pacified as soon as possible. On a side note, we were able to do this mission, the Empire's Servants. This will give us access to the Military Administrator's government reform, which isn't that amazing. Manpower recovery speed is nice. Military Advisor cost -15 is nice. Nobility Loyalty Equilibrium is all nice. If we'd chosen to tolerate the eunuchs, this would be a different reform, which would just strengthen, empower them, make them happy, and would stop them carrying out assassinations. So if we chose to stick with the eunuchs, this would be the point where they would actually start to benefit us. But of course, we didn't tolerate the eunuchs, so that's not something we need to think about. The next reform we can unlock by going down to the next mission though is pretty good. Monarch military skill +1 and just a yearly 0.5 army professionalism. We'll need to get our army professionalism up to 100% though, and our army tradition up to 80 in order to get that. And honestly, if once your army professionalism is at 100, do you really need yearly army professionalism? Oh well. But for now, let's march south against these Mohongians. Where should we set our goal as? I think we're going to prioritize taking the eastern territories that they control. Part of those territories are also controlled by this nation here, who we could just attack as well. We might actually do so. We might even full annex them, even if we don't have claims on all of their territory. Conquering all of that land will give us access to this mission, which reduces core creation cost by 15% for 30 years, which is pretty great. We'll set that as our goal. We'll take the most expensive location there and say that's our goal. We'll also call in our allies. The free slaves might as well. They may as well make themselves useful before we have to have disagreements, shall we say. Without the Raj to back them up, Mohong shouldn't really be anything even resembling an issue. How much of their land could we take that we have claims on? All of it, actually. It will push us over our overextension limit, though. How would it look on coalitions? I'm not actually that bothered. We'll start improving relations with the people that are going to get angry. But at this point, are we even scared of a coalition? I'm not sure we are. We may have gone beyond the point where a coalition is a real concern. As discussed, we're also going to declare war on these other guys and see if we can't annihilate them during the war. Mahong actually beat the free slaves and forced them to return some land to some nations. That's kind of good. Weakening the free slaves will benefit us in the long run. It's kind of why I wasn't helping them fight. But either way, if the AI chooses to waste its armies sieging down people I don't particularly care about, I quite like that. Alright, Ma Huang has had enough. We can take all of the land we need from them. Funnily enough, while this war was going on, their allies, the dwarves, actually broke their alliance and began a subjugation war on them. I don't think the dwarves are going to win. I believe it's due to the mission in their mission tree, the dwarves, which gives them the ability to attack and subjugate Mo Huang, but as I said, I'm not sure it's a good idea in this position. We might have ravaged Mo Huang, but I'm sure they'll be able to make a comeback. Alrighty, so we can finish these two missions. Do give us cause on the lands of the dwarves, so next time we go to war with Ma Hong, because they're probably going to annex the dwarves, we should be able to annex the dwarf and hold ourselves. We did go over our overextension limit, so we are going to need to chill out for a little bit. I'd also like to get our manpower up to 100% so we can complete the grains of rice and salt mission, so we can begin our Yanification campaigns. So I think it's chill out time as well as let manpower replenish time. We're also going to be looking and seeing if we can't vassalize some of the smaller states inland we want to conquer. I'm always on the lookout for people we can potentially subjugate just to make life easier for us. Bonus points if they have land that we can return to their control that they have cause on. There goes our ruler. He lived for quite a while. I keep forgetting to keep track of how long they lived, but I guess he was a mage, so that lets him live longer than usual. Then his not so talented son, the worst long we've actually had, Jinju the Fourth, is only a 332. We'll have to hope he dies. I did make him a general before, but he managed to survive being a general in the various wars that we fought. His son is quite good though, a 652, but he's not called Jinju. I don't like that. He'll break our unbroken line, and that's not what I want to see. We're getting close to maxing our manpower, thanks to the power of the Rise to Action button. Just around 20 months or so, and we'll be able to begin our Yanification programs. There we go. We can complete Grains of Rice and Salt, which gives us a little bit of manpower and a population boom. Now we can complete A Poem in a People. This gives us access to the Yanification campaign. Much like the hobgoblins, we can use a special edict that will gradually convert population in the state to Yan. As you can see, once we click the mission, we gain a bunch more missions to complete the Yanification program. To start with, the Yanification campaign is actually not very good. It decreases our manpower gain, but decreases the cost of cultural conversions. But as we complete these missions, the Yanification campaign will be replaced with a better modifier. One of the problems we do have, though, is because we're a rather religious, apathetic nation, we haven't actually done any converting. So at all of our land, we can't really manually convert provinces in, which is why we have the edict to do it for us. Of course, in order to use the edict, we do need to core the land. Something I've been avoiding doing in our periphery territory, mainly because we're close to being over our government limit. As we can see here, our government capacity. That's why it's time to get our wallet out and build a bunch of courthouses. But since we have now got the manpower we need, we can think about further expansion. We're no longer being held back by waiting for our manpower to come online. I think it's time we went north. The bird riders have been pretty much vanquished, but it's a good opportunity for us to swoop in and claim the victory. Dangun is pretty weak, so we shouldn't need our full strength to deal with them. Speaking of full strength, we should probably start expanding our army even further. I think another 2 armies would be appropriate. We also need to start making cannon armies, something I always kind of hesitate to do, but we'll do nonetheless. Alright, Dangun. Which of these locations that we have claims on is the most valuable? Are any of them valuable at all? Not really, they're all steppy territory. So I suppose it doesn't really matter. We'll just declare war for, I don't know, this one. But the question is, could we take all of this land in a single war? It's looking pretty good. I think so. We of course also need to finish off this small remnant state of the bird riders here. I think we'll do that mid-war. No reason to delay it. So let's send 4 of our armies up north. We'll leave another one here to attack the bird riders once a month has expired. Alright, bird boys, now you get yours. Both wars should be pretty uneventful. Neither nation is in a position to really defy us. Funnily enough, the bird riders are still alive. They have territory all the way up here and all the way over there, so they're not going to be destroyed from this war. But we've beaten them, so I guess we'll revoke all the cores they have on our territory. They can keep the cores they have on other people, that's not my problem. Then we'll just, you know, say get out of here. Never darken our doorstep again. And there goes Dangun. Ooh, we missed a single location. Jesus Christ, how horrifying. That sets us back a little. Means we won't be able to complete this mission because we need that one location. What we'll probably do is once the truce expires, we'll just threaten the war for it. Definitely annoying though. These things happen though. There's always a location or two that gets away every now and again. We've gained access to our next idea. I do tend to go religious in pretty much every game just because I love religious ideas. Of course, it's not that valuable to us here right now, but without spoiling anything, it may become beneficial to us in the future. If we didn't go for religious, I'm not sure which admin idea we'd go for. Maybe tolerance, but we're going to do a lot of cultural converting, so maybe tolerance isn't that relevant. On diplomatic ideas, though, I quite like going for espionage, reducing aggressive expansion impact by 20%, plus the spy network construction speed, plus that 10% siege ability, plus an extra diplomat, plus this vassalization acceptance plus 15. There isn't really many people left to vassalize in the region though. Everyone's either a vassal or too big to be vassalized at this point. So I'm not sure it matters that much. Then for mill idea, we could go quantity, but I don't think we need it. And as I mentioned before, I don't like going quantity. I think we're going to go espionage, just because no one ever really goes for it. So it's nice to see some representation. Truce with Mo Huang is going to expire soon, and I think we'll again go after them. They didn't actually conquer the dwarves who attacked them. Instead, they formed a trade league involving them. So that at least means the dwarves will be drawn into the war, so we'll probably use the war as an excuse to annex the dwarves as well. There goes our truce. Time to continue the expansion against Mo Hong. As mentioned, we're just going to take these locations up here that we have claims on. Once we do this mission, we're of course going to annex the dwarves while we're here as well. Once we do this mission, we'll gain a permanent claim on the rest of this region. Unfortunately, our mission tree kind of encourages us to conquer this area, then go west against the Raj. There's a bit of a delay in our conquest in that sense. And there we go. As discussed, we'll take these northern territories, including the dwarves. We're also going to return these 3 locations that our vassal has cores on, and I believe that's everything. Boop. There we go. We can complete this mission, which lets us decide the fate of the aforementioned dwarves. The king in the mountain. Duandi to the Kai, Dongjan to the Yan, Dwar in their own tongue. These strange, squat refugees from the west have always been a peculiar minority in our lands. Master craftsmen, tireless miners, and fearsome warriors. Though they've always kept to themselves in small enclaves in larger Yansheni city-states. Given enough rich wine, they will loudly trumpet tales of their once mighty empire deep in the caves of the jade mines. Over the ridges of the Fokao, they have established a petty kingdom, lording over the native Kai. Their glimmering hold of Verkel Ozavar provides some proof of these boastful claims. The hold's massive gates and adjustable wards proved to be a peculiar challenge to our generals. It took months of continuous cannon fire and sapping expeditions to bring them down, and waves of soldiers to clear each level. Eventually, with the malachite floors of the throne room slickened with Duongjan and Dwahe blood, the Wizard King bent the knee and offered his regal axe to our marshal. He has dispatched a messenger to the capital, requesting guidance on what is to be done with the dwarves. The Minister of Revenue notes that every hall of Varkel Ozavar contains crafts and treasures greater than a year's output of our workshops. Carting the loot back to Zhao Ming would be fair recompense for the lives lost taking the hold. The Chancellor counters, the martial and material skills of the dwarves would enrich the whole nation, leaving them with some authority to govern their own affairs, and establishing dwarven quarters in Yanshen proper may allow us to reap the benefits over generations, rather than a short-sighted sacking. So we can choose to sack Verkel, Ozavar. Dwarves won't like it, it'll be a bit ruthless. We'll gain, what, around 13,000 ducats? And the real cost it would only devastate the location, which isn't that bad. Or we can say, just as the Yanhe flows from the jade mines to our lands, so too shall its wayward children. Dwarves gain a very large tolerance bonus. The hold itself gains the autonomous hold modifier, which increases minimum autonomy by 50% permanently. We then add some dwarven minorities across our country and gain a short-lived dwarven smith modifier in those few locations for around 10 years. We're actually going to do the ruthless one, mainly because by doing the ruthless option we avoid the autonomous hold modifier, and we can be friendly towards the dwarves. We already have them at integrated status, so looting the place will only drop them down to coexisted. And the Dwarven Smiths modifier isn't that useful. At least it's only a few years that it lasts. 10 years overall. The amount of money we'll make from investing that 13,000 gold feels far higher than the amount we'd gain from the Dwarven Smiths. So we are going to sack the place. I'll apologize in the future. There is a fort in the location though, so it should replenish the damage quite quickly. We're also going to invest some of that money into repairing the hold once we've cored it, because we didn't actually damage it. It was damaged from the previous wars they had with, I guess, with us, so I guess we did damage it. But we didn't damage it in this war at least. So we'll use some of the money we looted from them to repair their hold. They should be thankful. I know I'd be thankful, maybe. The rest of the money can be dedicated to probably just building more courthouses so that we can have more land be cored and full stated. As completing that mission also gave us cores on this little nation. Maybe we should jump them right now. They're allied with Mo Huang though, and it's not like I'm scared of Mo Huang, but I wouldn't want to. I mean, maybe we would. I think actually, yeah, we'll start a war with these guys, bring in Mo Huang, try and make a white peace with Mo Huang, so that the truce is much shorter than what it would be for us taking all their land just now. So let us proceed. We'll attack for these guys' capital. I guess we'll call in the free slaves, might as well. Not sure there's a situation where we wouldn't want to call them in. That was very quick, but Mo Hong's had enough. Not surprising. If I were them, I probably wouldn't last long, since we just fought a war anyway. But that definitely reduced the truce time with them. Our truce will now last for only 5 years, instead of the 10 years it was going to last. And there we go, another short conflict. While we were doing that, the truce expired with Dangan. Let's see if we can't demand that location we need. Yep, perfect. Begin coring that. We can now complete this mission, Pathetic Barbarians, which gives us Taming the Terror Birds. Modifier 15 years? The riders of the Terror Birds have struck fear into the hearts of many Yan, as the name would imply. Nevertheless, we have faced worse terrors. They've been pacified. We now gain a claim on Gangung's capital area, which we can go for in another war. As I mentioned before, we'll dedicate some of the money we have to repairing the hold for the dwarves. We are a good and nice ruler after all, and we'll bestow a helping hand on our small subjects and our big ones. Here we can see an example of our Yanification policies that we have ongoing. This whole province has now been converted to Yan culture, specifically the culture that inhabits the region, that being the culture of most of the Jia nations. The exception is this province here, which is a Haramari province. Either non-humans aren't converted to a different culture, or they're converted to a similar culture. For example, the primal Haramari will be converted to serene Haramari, who are considered the Yanified version of Haramari. There goes our truce with Ma Hong. I feel like we're just going to be nothing but beating them up for a while, likely until we full annex them, but it is what it is, so we'll continue our advance. And there we go. I think we're going to be able to take all the provinces we need for our next mission, except for this one that's controlled by another nation. So there we go. Dismember Mao Hong, reduce them down. Very much a small state now. We'll of course need to core all this land. A lot of it's very cheap now though, due to all the modifiers we have affecting it. As mentioned, we do need that one single province from these guys. Will they just give it to us? Not quite. They're allied with the Raj, and that makes them feel a little confident. We could expand the size of our military to see if we could push them over the edge into acknowledging their betters, shall we say. But it might just be better to bite the bullet and fight them directly. We might be able to use it as an opportunity to weaken the Raj ahead of what will likely be our own conflict with them. Our truce has also expired with Dangan, so we could just turn back north and deal with them instead quickly before we potentially engage in a large-scale war with the Raja. Just a minor revolt here, nothing to worry about. The hardest part is actually just maneuvering all of our armies to deal with the revolts. I suppose I could automate it, but I've always been, kind of shied away from automation. I prefer to handle things myself. And there we go, rebels pacified, just need to siege down the few forts they managed to take. And then we'll be ready to look outward. We didn't even lose that much manpower from defeating all those rebels, so nothing really stopping us continuing our glorious march. For now though, I think we're going to leave the glorious marching here. Next time we're probably going to just slam down on Dangan, take their capital region, Go Won, which will allow us to complete the Hermit Kingdom mission. Then we're going to pivot south and take this one location we need to finish another mission. Whether we make a bigger army to outmatch the Raj, or whether we decide to actually fight them, we could try and dismember the Raj. I can't remember if they just collapse if we take their capital. We essentially just need to conquer all of this region, and then we can finish the mission tree. I'm not sure whether we'll go on to conquer all of Rahen. It is kind of appealing because we can actually Yanify large portions of Rahen as well, as even though they're not part of our mission tree per se. But again, I'll leave that for the future. Thank you for watching. Do tell me your thoughts on this playthrough, whether you like it or hate it. Either way, I'd like to hear your thoughts. So I'll thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.